Okay, so my reflection, I'm just going to read it, and it's this is new for me too, like Serenity said. So I can't say I really comprehend the five skandhas, but I did some reading on it. So the title of my reflection is Just Sitting in the Five Skandhas, and the subtitle is Me, 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 because it represents how much I'm clinging, and that's probably what will come out in my reflection. Okay. As I reflected on the topic of suffering and the heaps that are them or cause them, I looked for what was useful in this lesson or this teaching, somewhere where I could start, where I could begin to understand. Suzuki Roshi Zen Mind Beginner's Mind, deceptively slim volume, was my beginning into the way. Or I like how Serenity said it. It was a reminder for me that it's the middle way into the Buddhist practice. Dense with practicality, my only takeaway for the past 4 years from that book was just sit. So what could a simple lesson could I take away from the skandhas or the five aggregates or these heaps? What could I ponder or meditate on? What is my inquiry? What is practical? At first, the five skandhas were unseeable for me. Buddha's first noble truth on suffering has started to make sense, and I notice my clinging to family and friends and my sense of loss when they die. And there is no escape from death. And from that ordinary suffering, that universal suffering, I can also see the second aspect of suffering, that of change. My happiness today in this intensive will be gone by Monday when when I go to work. Or looking at my past and mourning some of the change as I think one year was better than another. But this third aspect of suffering or conditioning is harder for me to understand. To understand there is no being that is an individual or an I is difficult. I find myself clinging. If there is no me, then who am I? Luckily, Sangha appears as a raft. And in raft, I'm kind of referring how the Buddha in one of the stories was, my Dharma teachings, it's a raft to get to the other side, don't carry it around afterwards. And I always feel like these intensive and Sangha are always giving me these little mini rafts, like, oh, breathe when you sit, or name the thoughts that come through. And I see them as like little rafts that help me, and then I can let them go and abandon them, you know, um, if at all possible. So, anyways, luckily, Sangha appears as a raft, and I can actually hear Jan's reflection yesterday, and she chose two of those heaps to focus on. So I'm only going to choose one of the five aggregates, and it's the fourth aggregate of mental formation. It is those volitional activities, good and bad. I can sit with these volitional activities like attention, will, confidence, concentration, desire, hate. My own desires and hate or repugnance have softened over the years due to my sitting, I would say, and as I practice. In this particularly, I can see repugnance rise and then not stay around as long. There's almost more effort required now to hold on to my desires and my hates if they come around. I think this right here is my inquiry. So even though I don't quite understand all these the five skandhas, it's a beginning for me, I think, just to watch these things rise and then fall. And so in the Zen tradition, I've kind of come full circle, or just on my meandering path. I'm back to just sit and just to be aware of this moment. And so I can sit with what rises and what falls. And just to wrap up, so my references, one was The Beginner's Mind. There's Suzuki Roshi. Just Sit. And then I've been working through this book very slowly. And then luckily, Kim sent us all a free copy. But this one is what the Buddha wrote. There we go. By W. Raoula. And this is what he says, which I like. It reminds me of kind of Zen, the Zen tradition. He says, this mindfulness or awareness with regard to our activities taught by the Buddha is to live in the present moment, to live in the present action. This is also the Zen way, which is based primarily on this teaching. Here in this form of meditation, you haven't got to perform any particular action in order to develop mindfulness, but you have only to be mindful and aware of whatever you may do. And he goes on, but I think my biggest reflection is the seed's been planted, and I realize, wow, I really cling to this idea of me, you know. I spent so many years cultivating my identity that to take that away is like, well, you know, no, I'm not ready to let go of that. So, but it's softer now. And so maybe that's the start of letting go. Anyways, thanks for listening.
So we have 4 minutes for questions. And I have a reflection here to Elizabeth's talk, which she talks about clinging to me. I was sitting in this chair and Peg had us do an activity. I just told Serenity about it, where we had to draw a picture of ourselves in the center of the room and then our world around us. And then we had to share it with the person next to us. And that was this person. I don't remember who the person was, but we exchanged our drawings. And I looked at their drawing and I thought, well, they got it wrong. I'm not in the center. I have my drawing up on my wall to remind me that this is just my view. And so I keep coming back to this idea about the reflection, about the skandhas, as we have to realize this is just our experience. It isn't what is. And as long as we can do that, we can kind of hold off from that clinging, I think. So anyway, that's my reflection. Rosemarie.
Thanks to both Serenity and Elizabeth. And it's more of a comment than a question, because as I've been with myself and everyone through this exploration, it feels to me like we, and particularly in your talk, Serenity, what I felt in response to your sharing was how the expanse of your view over the years came through the Skandhas. So that's what I'm getting, and for you too, Elizabeth. We're you know, it's our depth of understanding of these aspects. Each of those are aspects of ourselves. And I was wondering about this too. This is a question in general. It feels like, and I think you said, Serenity, the progression from form, sensation, and perception, and that middle one that you used, Elizabeth, the formations, the mental formations, and the consciousness, that our sense of ourself is developmentally, I guess, when we're born, that's, you know, how things grow, that it would make sense that it would only be through them that we would and continue to be with them, so that we can continue to go through them. I don't know if this is making sense, but that's kind of what I'm getting here. They're not a separate thing from the more expansive, vast, no self, ultimate reality. So that was something I wanted to share, that we're going through them. Thank you.
And just I immediately thought, oh, clinging Buddha, and it's all part of it. So thank you for that, Rosemary. And Serenity.
And Lisa.
I think one of my, I consider one of my greatest vices is comparing mind, which is a torment to me. And, as I listen to others, sometimes I think, oh, I wish I could express myself so eloquently. And then the next person comes up and I have the same reaction. Oh my gosh, that's so elegant. And it's so true. So one of the things I wanted to say that I appreciate, Elizabeth, is I love the subtitle, me, because I'm always so relieved to hear that others spend as much time thinking about in their self-centered world as I do. And I'll bet most of us are pretty aware of that. It's like we'll get a little glimpse of non-clinging, of not clinging. And like you said, our world expands and then it's so elusive. It's so ephemeral. It's always changing shape. I mean, that's kind of what you referred to. So, it's really humbling and joyful that you started with just sitting, influenced by Suzuki Roshi, and then somehow you found a Sangha, and that transformed your experience. And I'm so grateful to be part of the Sangha with you, Elizabeth. Thank you.